Hello and welcome to Curated Spaces, the podcast that explores the stories behind spaces reimagining how we stay, work and play. Join me, Molly Cooper, as I sit down with founders, owners and thought leaders to hear about their journey of bringing a space to life. Great spaces shape our lives. They inspire, nurture and connect us. But most importantly, they bring us together to share life's milestones with the people who mean the most to us. So whether you're a traveller, foodie or design seeker, join us as we celebrate the power of spaces and the brilliant people behind them. Down in the heart of the X Valley on the edge of Exmoor National Park at the gorgeous Cove Valley. This Rewilding project has a collection of cabins with gorgeous interiors, freestanding baths and incredible views over the treetops. I'm delighted to welcome Yolanda Cruwys, who has been caring for this pocket of land for the past few years and launched the cabins earlier this year. Yolanda, welcome to Creative Spaces. I'm so excited to have you here today. How are you doing?
Thanks, Molly, and welcome. Yeah, lovely to have you here. I'm doing really well. I'm really pleased to have you.
Excellent. And we're here in one of the gorgeous cabins looking out over the treetops. It's really quite a magical space. I can't wait to hear more about it. But before we get into the space itself, I'd love to hear a bit about you and your background and how you've ended up here at Cove Valley.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Devon born and raised. So always had a real love for nature and wildlife and animals, really. And so after having some career advice to not work in conservation or with animals, that apparently wasn't a good career choice, I decided to pull away from that, and I actually went and studied animal science. And that was kind of a lot of different things, encompassing ecology and conservation and behaviour and stuff. So it really then helped to ignite further that passion to help protect the natural world in some way.
That's gorgeous, and so nice to have a calling in life that's more than move to London. And and we're here in Devon, really in the heart of the area, and I'd love to sort of set the scene a bit for people listening in about things to do around here and sort of just paint a bit of a picture of Cove Valley and the surroundings.
Yeah, so as you said, we're in the X Valley. We're quite close to Exmoor National Park. So there's lots of amazing walks and things. It's still quite a rugged landscape, so it's quite hilly, and you've got the Devon rolling hills, so that's quite an attraction. Not far from the coast either, so we kind of have a bit of everything, really. Yeah,
and I was driving here, and it was through these amazing, like, curving roads around the side of hills, and then a little village would pop up, and then you'd be back into the forest. It was really almost like otherworldly. It was beautiful.
Yeah, still quite rugged, which is nice.
Yeah, and then obviously you get to Cove Valley and you jump on the back of that. Would you call it a truck? Almost like an off-road golf buggy.
Yeah, it's a Can-Am, so it's an off-road buggy, really.
Yeah, amazing. And then a few more winding roads, and then you get to the top of this incredible viewpoint just down over the hills, and you can almost see the first cabin just perched on the hillside. It's really quite a special spot. So before we talk about the cabins themselves, I know you've had this land for 4 to 5 years, so maybe we should go into the history of that a little bit.
Yeah, so we moved here about 7 years ago. We bought the house that we live in with about 30 acres, and then we bought a bit extra from the neighbouring farmer. So then we had about 130 acres in total. At that point, we were kind of doing what we thought most landowners do, good landowners do, to manage the land. So we were cutting grass, we had some animals grazing the land. And I think we soon realised that this land in particular is quite steep, so it's not great farmland. And so in order for it to become profitable, we kind of needed to put a lot more pressure on the land, which isn't something we really wanted to do. So then we kind of were exploring other ways of using the land in a kind of way. And we'd already, Ben's family are quite involved in rewilding already in Scotland and in Europe. So we already knew a lot about rewilding, and we started spending a bit of time down at Knepp estate down in Sussex, and they have a much larger scale project that's been going for 20 odd years. So we kind of got a bit of inspiration from them and thought, could we recreate something similar here, just on a smaller scale? So we approached a landowner that was next door and said, would you be interested in putting the land together and increasing the size? So at the start we had the two of us, and now more recently we've got an extra person that's joined up to make kind of 300 plus acres now. So at the beginning we just decided to take all the management off, so no animals were grazing the land. We stopped cutting or putting any chemicals or anything like that on any of the land, and kind of gave it a couple of years to rest and recover and sort of work out what was going to happen naturally on its own. It's quite interesting because each part of the land is slightly different. So you have wetlands, woodlands, grasslands, so it all kind of regenerates slightly differently. So it's quite interesting to watch and just see what nature would do if left to its own accord. So we did that for the first few years, and we kind of got some wildlife groups in to do baseline surveys and give us an idea of what we were dealing with to begin with. And then after a few years of rest, we started to introduce certain animals onto the ground. So similar to what they're doing at Knepp, we're using domesticated versions of the wild animals that would have once roamed in large numbers across the landscapes here. So we've used longhorn cattle in place of the aurochs. We've got ponies in place of tarpans. We've got Iron Age pigs that are replicating the wild boar behaviours. And then we've already got wild red and roe deer populations here. So we're using all of those animals to kind of help to create this more mosaic, biodiverse habitat. The reason we use different animals and not one animal is because they all have different mouthpieces and they all do different behaviours on the land. So they'll select different vegetation and forage. They'll trample around on the ground differently. They'll rootle some hard ground over. They'll thrash around with their horns and their dung is all different components. So it all kind of brings in something slightly different to the ground, and it prevents more dominant species taking over and allows more diversity to exist here.
That's amazing. And actually I loved, as we were walking over, you could look out over the neighbouring farm that was like a proper farm. And the difference between those neatly, grazed green fields with a little pack, a herd of sheep. And then you see this sort of rugged tufts of land that was sort of your bit, or even the bits that the farmer couldn't get to, which is how nature was just, what you think of as the countryside is actually a very manicured, not natural state of the countryside at all. I thought that was amazing to see. And then let's talk about the cabins then, because they opened earlier this year. And how did you think about going around and making spaces stay? So like you said, it's a very steep hill, like coming down here. What was it like getting them off the ground?
So they were all built on site by an amazing team that would do building work on pieces of land that probably some would turn away from because it is quite steep in places. But the whole point of it was to be able to get people to come and be surrounded in the wilderness. And to do that, we kind of needed to position them in the thick of the forest and on the sides of the hills and things. So the cabins, initially the idea came about because we thought, we're doing all this amazing work here for nature, but it kind of needs to make financial sense, but also it's quite nice to share it with people and inspire people and kind of use it as an opportunity to educate people into why we should be perhaps not farming all land, but some land, yes, but other land we could be doing other things with. So that's kind of where the idea initially came into fruition. And we also kind of wanted to show landowners that if they don't want to farm, or if the land doesn't make so much sense to farm, there is other ways of diversifying. So that's kind of where the idea of the cabins came from.
And they're so beautifully made. I mean, they all have these huge picture windows, and like looking just past you now, and you just have this incredible view of the balcony and the wood burner, and then beyond that just trees. And as we go into autumn now, there's like the golds coming through. It's just really stunning. So when you started to think about designing them, what was your starting point? Was it, how do we see as much of this amazing countryside as possible? Or I know there's a bit of a Wild West theme going on, it feels like. So where did that come from?
So I think, again, we wanted to create structures that don't stand out too much in the landscape. So we've used a lot of materials like the wood and the colours of the tin, things that kind of replicate and mimic nature's palette, really. So we wanted them to blend in and for people to kind of feel like they were part of nature. I think a lot of the time we get that disconnection from the fact that we are part of nature. So that was definitely something we wanted to keep as a running theme throughout. So that's why we've got the big windows. So it's kind of like an outside feeling, we're inside. my husband had a lot to do with the design of it. So I can't take too much credit for that.
I'll be listening. Yeah.
for the exterior. And then we had a really amazing, he's a good friend of ours, Tom Cox, he's one of the founders of Ham Interiors. So he helped a lot with the inside stuff. So again, we wanted everything to be quite complementary of nature's, what you see out the window. We wanted it to kind of be a running theme inside as well. And his style is very cabin, Wild West, kind of Navajo. So he's used some really cool colours and artwork and things to create something quite special. Yeah,
it's really cool. And like all the little artwork with real nods to the Wild West, and even outside one of the cabins, that incredible sort of bench made from old tree trunk. And it's just all these gorgeous, like very earthy natural materials, but then really quite luxury when you get inside, like this beautiful green corduroy couch that you're sat on now, and all the beds are just stunning with those like beautiful pillows. And of course, like we must talk about the outside baths. I just think they're so brilliant, and they're actually hot tubs, you were saying.
So they're wood-fired tubs, so you kind of you sit in, well, you fill them up with cold water, and then you light it's like you would on a log burner. You fill this little box with logs and you keep that stacked up, and that heats the water.
Gorgeous. And the cabin we're in now, you have to go back down on like a little trail through some trees, and it's freestanding on a little platform. So once you're in, all you can see is trees. It's just magical, isn't it? Yeah. And so once people get out here, and they are literally in the middle of a valley, quite a steep hill up, what do they do? Do they walk? Do they sit and enjoy the wood burners? Is it a real mix?
So we've organised a few different trails that people can follow. So there's a map inside the cabins that you don't have to stick to the trails. You can kind of venture off and explore and see different animals. We have a welcome book that kind of shows you the different animals you can expect to see and where to find them. But then if you prefer to stay inside, we've kind of made the cabins so you can use them all year round. They're very well insulated. They've got cosy wood burners and nice soft furnishings and things, and hopefully everything that you would need if you don't want to go outside at all. They've got nice balconies where you can sit under the stars or have a wood-fired tub. And we've also put lots of games and books, and there's a few different wildlife identification cards and things if you want to go for a walk and identify footprints or look at the birds and work out what birds you're looking at. So we kind of hope we cater for everyone if you want to go exploring, or if you're quite happy just to sit with a nice book and relax.
You can have your own safari if you fancy it, or you can just curl up with a bottle of red. Gorgeous. And actually we were walking here, and you pointed and said there's a little sort of sunset spot where you can go up and just have this incredible view over the whole valley, and just have a little sundowner, which is just lovely.
And
isn't
all
it?
the cabins have picnic baskets in, so if you want to stock up with a few bits and walk up and watch the sunset, then you can.
And so what's the deal with food? Do people bring their own and cook here, or?
So the cabins are self-catering, so they've all got fully functioning kitchens and fridges and everything, and barbecues and things. So we encourage people to bring everything on arrival, because it's quite remote, and if you forget something, it's quite a trek to go and get it. But we do offer a few little essential welcome treats like bread, eggs, milk and butter, just to kind of get you going, and tea and coffee and things. But ultimately you bring your food with you, or we do provide barbecue boxes and breakfast boxes, which people can pre-order.
Nice. You need that first cup of tea, don't you, in the morning bed? Don't want to forget your milk.
No,
for that.
no, definitely not.
Well, let's talk about the wildlife then, because you were saying that you've got all the deer here, but also beavers all the way down the stream that sort of goes down the heart of the valley. I'd love to hear a bit about what you were calling it, the pen, I think, where you have them all running around.
So we have a good variety of wild animals. So the beavers are wild. And we have roe deer, red deer. We have a nice selection of birds of prey and owls, and we have a nesting pair of goshawks, which are quite special to see from the cabins. And then we also have an enclosure, like you mentioned, which has a few deer in at the moment, which are remnants of when we used to farm some animals here. But they're kind of now just keeping on top of the grazing within that pen. The pen is also set up for the pigs at the moment, who will eventually be moving across the whole site, but we're just kind of working out how to keep them in at the moment, because they're not quite so simple. And also in that enclosure we have a breeding program of white stalks. So they are breeding pairs which will eventually produce young for reintroductions.
And are they a bit like swans and they pair for life, or?
They're quite selective as to who they choose. So we do need to have quite a number of them to for them to actually breed. Just because you put a pair together doesn't necessarily mean that they will breed.
No way.
So they are quite
picky. Picky, these stalks. Yes, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but they're amazing, and the sound of them clattering their bills as you walk through is quite something to hear.
Yeah, and I love this whole idea of just having. I mean, I know not the original versions, but all these animals just wandering around and using the land as they would have without humans. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then with the cows, you were telling me, is you don't want to use fences, which I completely get. The collars are so clever.
Yeah, they're really, really, really good pieces of kit, actually. They're the no fence collars.
Yeah.
So the cows at the moment can have full roam of the whole site. Eventually, we're hoping to do that with the other animals too, but these collars you can only use on cows at the moment.
Yeah.
So they work on the principle of a satellite, and they are trained to respond to a sound that's played to them if they go too close to the designated perimeter. So you can set it, it all works on an app on your phone, and you can kind of set that where you'd like them to go. And then they can just kind of mosey wherever they like, and hopefully they turn around when they played a sound. And it's just so much easier than having it to put fencing up. And it's just meant that we can basically take all of our internal fencing down, just have one perimeter fence, apart from the enclosure that we've got the pigs in at the moment. But yeah, that works really, really well.
Which is brilliant,
and a lot
isn't
cheaper than fencing.
I know, yeah.
And better for nature.
Better for nature, and quite cool to see where they go.
Yeah.
Do they travel around a lot?
It gives you a nice idea of like tracking on where they are spending most of their time.
Yeah.
So again, if you want to restrict areas from grazing, then it's really simple to do that.
Like I need one of these for my cats.
Yeah.
See what they get up to.
Yeah, would be good, wouldn't it? And children, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I know, see where they end up. And you were building some new enclosures for, was it the turtle doves that are coming?
Yeah, so again, similar to the white stalks, we are currently building an enclosure to house turtle doves. So again, there'll be breeding stock that will eventually be reintroduced.
Yeah, that's amazing. I just think the whole thing is such a brilliant idea, and it's so nice and so heartening to see there's an alternative to farming, like all this land, and especially now as people are more conscious about how they travel and where they travel and don't want to do as many international flights, that you can have these really beautiful pockets of England that no one would otherwise be here in this valley. And people can now come and spend a couple of nights and reconnect back with their own country and see some animals, and you don't need to jet off to South Africa to, go bird watching kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's such an amazing idea. Yeah.
And the model itself, as much as I say we're not farming the land, for other landowners, the model is there to still be producing meat on the land at a much higher quality meat at lower stock density. So, it's possible to still be farming land, but in a slightly different way.
Yeah, farming and still promoting all this amazing biodiversity and reintroducing animals and helping all the insects and the birds out. I just think it's brilliant.
And for our own health and well-being, that spending time in nature is so beneficial. And I think a lot of us don't do enough of it.
Yeah, well, we were saying, weren't we? I was like, I always hate going back to London after trips like this. And actually, just being here, it brings you such calm. You feel so re-energized and so refocused. It's so easy to just be overwhelmed by like notifications and thoughts and to-do lists and emails. And actually, you step out here and it's just so lovely to just stop and think.
Yeah.
And look at that view. I mean,
it doesn't get old, actually.
Yeah. And so let's talk about the seasons. I know you've just had your first summer. Congratulations. And obviously going into winter now. And I can so see the appeal of hunkering down here.
Yeah.
Are you expecting to see people throughout the year or?
Yeah, so we set the cabins up so that they're really nicely insulated and they've got the fires and everything. So they can be used all year round.
Yeah.
And each season, offers something different wildlife-wise. So at the moment, because we're into autumn time, it's the deer rutting season. So it's quite a special time to come and just be in your cabin, but also go for a walk and listen to the sounds of the red stags roaring. So they're all competing for territory and females at the moment. So it kind of sounds a bit like Jurassic Park here sometimes at the moment. But it's something that a lot of people wouldn't experience. And I do have to explain when people come, like, if you hear some roaring in the middle of the night, don't worry, it's just a red stag. But yeah, they're quite magnificent animals. And obviously autumn is great with the colours and everything that's changing now. So
and nice to have a bit of a calm break before Christmas, before the whole festive madness kicks off, and
absolutely
just take that time for yourself. And we were actually saying, so there's 3 cabins at the moment. I know we can talk about maybe future plans in a bit, but quite nice to come, and they're all so different. Each one has a really different sense of style and identity, and you could almost come and try each one out and have a completely different experience. And could you tell people listening a bit about the names, because I just think they're brilliant?
Yeah, so we kind of, because of the whole the running theme of the Navajo kind of tribal aspects to a lot of the furnishings and things, as well as the culture itself, we chose quite Native American names for each of the cabins. So the top cabin is called Hopi, which is named after the Hopi tribe, which means peaceful people.
Yeah.
And the cabin that we're in at the moment is Yukai, which means deep valley, because we're in a deep valley. And then the third cabin, which is a treehouse wooden cabin, we named Chatan, which means hawk, because we're looking right over the forest at where all of you're likely to see most of the hawks.
And I think they all really sort of embody their names. Like the peaceful tribe is in such a quiet spot overlooking the whole valley. It does have a real sense of calm. Here we are right in the heart of the valley. It's like a super steep little slope down, and all you can see these trees sort of spreading upwards.
Yeah.
And then Yukai, it does feel like a tree house, we were saying.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you're a child and you have a vision of your perfect tree house, like that's what you think of. And there's like incredible little statement circle picture window just peeking out, and just absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, so special. So yeah, looking forward. I know you said you've got planning permission for 3 more cabins, and you're currently thinking that through. What does the next sort of, I know you've only been going 6 months really, but what does the next 6 months and beyond look like for you, and what would you like to see more of in the space?
Yeah, so we did apply originally for 6 cabins. We thought we'd only get planning for 3, but we actually did get the whole 6. So we're just kind of weighing up now whether we put in for these extra 3. Yeah, I think it would be nice. We're just kind of working out financially if we can do that for a minute. But yeah, I think the plan will be to probably expand. We also have a nice 6-meter yurt up on the top of the site next to the stone circle that we put in. So we'd quite like to explore using the land for ceremonies and more retreat style things like yoga retreats or art retreats. There's so many different things we could offer the space for. As well as potentially getting guests more involved with seeing the animals here. So with the turtle doves and the stalks and things, whether we can do nature safaris and things. We have so many things we'd like to do, but we're kind of trying to slow ourselves down a little bit. Yeah,
you don't want to take too much and run too fast, do you?
Exactly.
I get that. But no, well, congrats for getting your planning permission. I feel like that's often the hardest bit.
That's what we thought. Yeah, we were quite surprised at how easily we got that.
Exactly. And at least you've done all the heavy work, the foundations, because you were saying you had to get electricity and water all the way down here, which is a big feat. Well, I wish you all the best in the future. I'm so excited to see what comes and hear about how all the animals get on. I feel like it's such an exciting time ahead, and it's been such a pleasure chatting about it. Before we do go, I do of course have a little game of Dream Spaces to play. I'm going to ask you 3 prompts, and you just need to let me know what space comes to mind. Imagine you won the lottery, cash that check, money's of no object. The first one is, where are you running away to detox, disconnect from it all, and have a bit of me time?
That's a good question. I think it would be either Costa Rica or Nairobi, probably. If I was going to go somewhere. Yeah.
Have you been to either of those before?
I haven't actually, but it's definitely on the cards.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
I feel like a few people have said Nairobi actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's having a bit of a moment, it feels.
Oh, nice.
And Costa Rica, obviously lovely.
Yeah.
Are you a surfer or?
No, I'm not. It would be more for nature, going out to see all the wildlife. Yeah.
Well, we were saying it feels quite rainforesty here.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so channeling a bit of Costa Rica here in Cove Valley. The next one's slightly different. Your ultimate birthday party. Where are you hosting it?
Oh, my ultimate birthday party. Good question. I'm quite a home bird, so I'd probably stay at home. Yeah, to be honest.
You know what? A lot of people say that, and that's absolutely
in the summer.
fine.
Although my birthday's in March, so it'd have to be maybe a delayed one. Slightly, a nice summer party at home.
Oh. Well, you've got that view over the whole valley.
Yeah, exactly. With all my animals around me, because that's when I'm happiest.
I still can't get over
I'd
the
probably
deer.
invite the animals and not people.
No humans allowed.
That would be my perfect.
Just me and the dogs
party.
and the deer.
Yeah.
Oh, sounds brilliant. And then finally, your once in a lifetime bucket list trip. Where are you heading, and are you staying anywhere special?
Oh, it'd probably be similar to the first answer, I think. Maybe I would be, or maybe I'd be going somewhere jungly, and going on wildlife treks, I think.
Oh, gorgeous.
I mean, it's always wildlife or animals.
Yeah, no, I love it.
So, yeah, I think I'd do that.
Somewhere jungly.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
amazing. Have you been to any cool jungles? Or
I haven't actually.
it's time to get out there.
Definitely
Yeah,
need to
do some
before then.
trekking.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Well, I hope you get your trip to the jungle. And if not, well, you've got...
Bring the jungle here.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. Thank you so much for showing me around all these gorgeous cabins.
You're
All the
welcome.
best for the next chapter.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Lovely chatting.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Curated Spaces podcast. For more information and content around any of the spaces we feature, head to our website or Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe to have new episodes delivered straight to your inbox every Wednesday. And if there's a special place in your life that you'd like to hear on the Curated Spaces podcast, please do get in touch, as we're always on the lookout for more brilliant spaces to share with the world.